Ready when you
Hi, welcome back, book babes. We're so excited that you're here, and we are ready to dive in to chapter 5, which is May. The theme for this chapter is be serious about play. And let me just say, I was telling Hannah that this is something I really need to learn to embrace because I'm not good at having fun and playing in the moment, in the day to day. I'm all up for an adventure. I'm up for like getting away, exploring new things. But just in the day to day, that's where I struggle. So the subtitles for this chapter is Find More Fun, Take Time to Be Silly, Go Off the Path, and Start a Collection. And I thought these were super interesting. The way that she kind of really broke down play, I think it's funny because she has a very analytical mind. So she has to research and discover and understand all the things. And it's like, that's totally the opposite of what play is. Like play is just relaxing and going with the flow. And I think seeing how she kind of broke it all down was super interesting to me.
And it's super funny that in the first, like, Find More Fun, she talks about starting a book club. And so I had to chuckle at her and her experience of creating this book club. And she just kind of talks in the creating of a book club because it was a very specific, she wanted to dive into child fantasy books, which she is like, you know, as an adult reading child fiction, like, is that weird? Am I going to find other people that are going to like it? And she talks about how she found a lot of people that really enjoyed it and how she loved the community and the discussion and how she was really glad that she didn't let the downplay of like, oh, no one else is going to think that this is fun or that this is interesting stop her from doing it. And she talks about how her, you know, one of her secrets of adulthood is not everyone's version of fun is going to be the same as mine. And I think that was really, really important because it's so true. Some people's version of fun is very much more quiet. Some people's version of fun is very loud and extravagant. And I think that it's expressing that there is so many different ways to have fun. And the definition of fun is very different for people.
Absolutely. I have that same spot highlighted, just like what's fun for someone else may not be fun for me. I'm that person. I do not like shopping, like at all. I don't love shopping. It does not bring me joy. Makeup, fancy things, like that's just not my cup of tea. Get me out in nature. Let's get muddy. Let's go for a hike. Let's explore. That's what fills my cup. And I think too often, especially as adult women, we grew up trying to fit in. We grew up trying to feel connected to other people or do things that other people approved of so that we were part of the in crowd or so that someone else accepted us, that we've never given ourselves a chance to discover who we are. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm speaking too much for other people. But from working with other women, we don't know who we are. And really, we're at a point in our lives where we get to uncover this fun self-discovery, where we get to try new things. And I totally love that. One thing that she said that kind of like empowered me, she says, when you're looking for fun, it would pass this test. I looked forward to it. I found it energizing, not draining, and I didn't feel guilty about it later. And I think that's really beautiful test to try and be like, okay, I think it's important, especially if you don't know who you are, to try out a million things, right? Like go to a cooking class, go try dance, go sing, go do, give a speech in front of someone, play the piano, play the drums, whatever you got to do. But at the end of the day, does it pass that test? And that's super powerful to me.
And I think that something that kind of goes hand in hand with that is if you have fun with it, you don't have to be good at it. You know, I think that if you find a big joy in, let's say, like you love singing or you love playing the guitar, but maybe you're very beginner at it, but it brings you a whole lot of joy. Own that. Enjoy singing. Take a singing class. Take a guitar class. You don't have to be the next rock band master at guitar, but if you enjoy playing it, you enjoy how it sounds, like enjoy doing that little bit of something. And I think that she kind of touches on that a little bit. And also her secret of adulthood, that you can choose what you do, but you can't choose what you like to do.
Loved that.
And that's kind of like how you're talking about how your version of fun is not shopping. My version of fun is very much shopping. Like bring me to the mall. I live in Minnesota. We have the Mall of America, which is a 2 to 3 time trip for me because I love that place with all of my soul. But that wouldn't be something that you and I would go do together
That would
because
overwhelm me.
it's not going to match. But I love going out and I love nature and camping. And so it's just kind of finding that like solid ground. And another thing is not being embarrassed if your norm of fun does not fit everybody else's. I am not very much a drinker. I am not really a bar scene. And growing up in a smaller town, my husband grew up in a smaller town. That's kind of the one main source when you grow up of what you go do. And I found it very boring to think of every Friday and Saturday night going out to the bar, going to a friend's garage and drinking. It just was not my cup of tea. And it was such a norm that I feel like I got looked at kind of funny because that wasn't what I found fun. And I think having a confidence in knowing like what you do and don't like is very key. Just because that's the normal for your friend group, maybe it's time to find a different friend group if that's not what you're interested in doing.
Well, and I think especially growing up in a small town, you only know these people, right? And it's scary to put yourself out there and get to know other people. But the cool thing about social media is if you use it for the good, it really can change your life. Because what I have found is I found so many people that I can connect with that I never would have met in real life had it not been for social media. And I think that that's super super key, and it kind of brings in this point that I have highlighted. The world is so big and I wonder if I'm missing out. We get FOMO of like, oh my gosh, what am I missing, that we want to try and do it all. And she highlighted, she says, I can do anything I want, but I can't do everything I want. So it kind of yes, so it kind of just like reinforced for me, like, listen, find what you like and do more of that. Stop trying to do it all to find your thing or to fit in or whatever. Just do what you like, because you know that that's going to bring you joy. And it says in here too, something else that really spoke to me. She said, you can choose what you do. You can't choose what you like to do, which you had mentioned. I have a lot of notions about what I wish I liked to do, about the subjects and occupations that I wish interested me. But it doesn't matter what I wish I were. I am Gretchen. And it comes back to that promise she made to herself, be Gretchen. And it's like the promise for me, okay, be Deidra, right? Like it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. It doesn't matter what you like, what you wish you liked. What do you like? Like, listen to your heart truly. And I'm very much like her. She's obviously an overworker. She loves to work hard. And in this section, she said, too often she says no to fun. And like I said, when I open this, I'm not good in the day-to-day fun. I literally have to put it on my to-do list, say yes to fun. Like, that may sound super cheesy, but it's my truth. And in here, she said, too often I give up fun in order to work. I often felt so overwhelmed by the tasks that I think the most fun would be to cross some items off my to-do list. And I read that and I was like, huh. Yep, been there. Because how many times or how many days is your to-do list so incredibly full and you're like, listen, if I could just get this done and over with, I won't feel all the stress, right? But you don't even know where to start. So you just kind of are busy all day doing nothing. And then at the end of the day, you didn't have any fun and you didn't get much done. Whereas if you filled your cup and you had fun, then you kind of got to refresh, relax, rethink, and you get to go about your tasks with renewed energy. And I thought that was really eye-opening and like a punch to my gut. Like, quit doing that shit.
Definitely. And it kind of like also then goes so smoothly into just taking time to be silly. You're going to have everyday tasks that you're going to do. And she talks about, putting away the groceries and how she is just used to barking at her family, like, all right, hurry up and put away the bread, hurry up and put away the eggs, away the oranges. And how next time she stopped and she took 2 oranges and put them in her eyes and chased around the girls with like googly clementine eyes. And they laughed, her husband laughed. And it was such a cute little story. You have to do those things every day, but how can you take that everyday task and just make it a little bit silly, make it a little bit fun? I think it was last chapter, you and I were talking about our New Year's Eve party. Maybe when we're making cookies, maybe I do take that flour and kind of like, sprinkle it in their face and have a little bit of a flour fight. Just those like little things that you can take. How can I make this into a silly moment? if you're driving in the car, turning on a funny song and singing it at the top of your lungs, and just doing those like little things that might seem like, oh my gosh, this is kind of stupid, but it makes you laugh. And what is better than hearing like your husband or your kids laugh? And how does that not make you laugh? Because laughter is contagious. And I love how she talked about just taking that simple everyday thing and putting it in that silly way.
Well, and that kind of like brings me to a real life realization. Last year for Christmas, we found a deal where you could get the Alexa home, whatever, like the little Alexa thing. You could get it for a penny if you signed up for like, I think it was Spotify. And I was like, yes, my family loves to dance. I love music going throughout my house. So when we're doing dishes or I have the boys doing laundry, they get to say like, hey, play this. And we just have a random kitchen dance parties and we get to dance around and listen to our favorite songs. They are totally obsessed with Justin Bieber, just like I am now. And they know all the songs simply because we get to walk in the kitchen and say, hey, play this. I don't want to say her name too loud or if we're going to start hearing her sing, but
And I love that. And it is just like a fun way to like make memories. And we have the same thing. And the kids think it's so funny to be like, hey, Google, play Frozen. And then they start dancing around the kitchen. And like I said, all of her chapters tie together really well. And just taking that time to be silly, I think covers our parenting chapter just as much, because it goes into making those happy memories by making little things silly and taking the time to have fun. And I love the correlation between the two that you can make.
I think that's something that I'm finding in what she's writing is each chapter is building off of itself. And maybe she realized this when she was going through it. Maybe she didn't. But as she's making these changes each month, it's like they overlap, right? So the first month was energy. The second month was marriage. But when she took care of energy, it made the marriage better. And when she took care of her marriage, it made her parenting better. When she took care of her parenting, she was able to be sillier. And it just kind of is like piling on top. And it's kind of like the domino effect of when you take care of you, watch what all falls into place. And I just think it's really beautiful. And I think it needs noted that how it's all kind of meshing together.
I agree. I love watching it kind of unfold for her. And I kind of touched on this in our last episode, but she always kind of recaps on like how she feels the happiness project is going for her. And I just feel that like you can literally in this book watch that transformation happen in real time, like as you're reading each chapter. And I just love that. Another thing that she kind of jumps in this chapter with going off the path, which I love because I'm the really big adventurer, the new experience, the new food, the new sights. And she talks about how like your body kind of craves that unexpected view, that unexpected situation. And something that she did, which I always talk about in every single episode, how much I love that she's so tactical. And she talks about something so simple as each Monday in this month, she got a magazine. She bought 3 magazines on a topic that she had zero interest prior or zero knowledge prior. So she grabbed like a home living book, a horse book, and a gospel magazine. And she always made herself sit down and read it. And she found that she dreaded it all week long. But every time she sat down and read this, she found herself like inspired or feeling so much more that like intellectual, and she found these new ideas. And I thought it was just such a unique way of, you don't need to necessarily like go on a 3-month course to India to discover something new. It's as simple as walking into, a bookstore or a convenience store, picking up a magazine on something that you don't know and reading it cover to cover and expanding your mind like that. And I love that she just talked about doing that simple little thing to expand your mind and kind of get that outworld experience still.
Absolutely. I love that you touch on that because I honestly have nothing from that section highlighted. And I didn't recognize why until you started talking. I am not a spontaneous person at all whatsoever. It gives me anxiety. But because I'm a planner, I love having a plan. My husband, on the flip side, is spontaneous. Like I could make plans and he will change them 1,400 times until we get to that date or whatever we have to do. And it is the ability the permission for yourself to just let go of control and be spontaneous in whatever it is you're doing. You don't have to have a plan, because let's be honest, nothing ever goes according to plan. So why even worry about that, right? So really taking that step of spontaneity, even if you don't know like what's to come, that's the fun of it. And I think that was really enlightening. The next little section is it's start a collection. And I don't know about you, but I don't have any collections. I'm not one for like clutter around my house. And I know that was something that she said too, was she didn't want a big clutter, and especially she'd already decluttered her house. So how does she have a collection that doesn't overtake, right? And I don't have a collection. Do you collect anything?
So it kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily collect everything, but I'm really big on nostalgic clutter. So little trinkets or things that remind me of places. So I'm the collector of like any kind of ticket stub or any kind of like little things. If you look up on my bookshelf right here, I have every little thing up there is something from my past. It's not just like, oh, this looks cute, so I purchased it. Yeah. But as far as like collecting things, I collect Pokemon cards, like the original ones.
I just love you.
That's it.
My kids would be in heaven.
I do. I have my original ones from 1997, and I have 7 cards to go to buy the original ones. So I guess like that is my nerd self does collect the 97 Pokemon cards. So
that's crazy cool. I like that. That's cool. And I think it's so interesting how everyone is so different when it comes to stuff like this. She said in there, like kind of finding what her collector would be. It just kind of clicked after she read a story, and the story, what was it? From a play, The Bluebird. The fairy tale tells 2 children, the bluebird stands for happiness, and it kind of symbolizes not just a bird, but this whole happiness project for her. And so seeing how she was able to go off the beaten path and find a little bluebird and like things that she wouldn't normally buy, it's a little something special to remind her, kind of like, keep your happiness here, right? Like, do this for you. I thought that was beautiful.
I also love that, like, in this topic, she, like you said, in January, you talk about your energy and clearing out the space and having your empty shelf. In this chapter, she talks about the importance of leaving a little mess. And she talks about having a junk drawer. And I don't know about your house, but we have a junk drawer, and it is the collector of the batteries, the tape, the like birthday candles. Like, raise your hand if you have the drawer that has the random mix match birthday candles in it right now. That is me. And she kind of just talks about, it's like that every house needs a few good junk drawers where you can find unexpected things. It's good to have a bit of chaos someplace with some things that don't really belong anywhere, but that you want to keep. And I love that, because it just resonated with like just having that spot where nothing belongs, but everything belongs. Yeah. It just felt so comforting. And then she talks about how she started a happiness box. And I have something like that. It's a shoebox in my closet. And that's where I keep all those like little random things, like that picture or that card or the movie box, ticket stub. And I love that she talks about having that, because that's one of my favorite things to look through.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, one of the most impactful things from this chapter for me was how she categorized fun. So she says that fun falls into 3 different categories. Again, I'm an analytical brain. I'm very much like her. So this was really powerful for me to understand what fun I like and what really speaks to my soul. So the 3 different categories are 1, challenging fun, 2, accommodating fun, and 3, relaxing fun. But what are those? So challenging fun is the most rewarding, but also most demanding. It can create frustration, anxiety, and hard work. It requires errands, takes time and energy. In the end, however, it pays off with the most satisfying fun. I learned I love challenging fun. Like, I love the process of working hard to achieve something. I love just being able to celebrate that at the end, I think. And so that's why challenging fun is the best for me. Accommodating fun. It's less challenging, but requires a little bit of effort. This is like going to the playground. It's fun, but she's really there for her children. So she's accommodating them and kind of filling their happiness need. And once she gets there, she has fun, but she still has to prep it and plan it and do all those things. Again, like date nights. I love date nights. Once we get there, it's a blast, but it's accommodating fun because I have to plan it. I have to get the babysitter. I have to do all these things in order to make it happen. And so I think like that's a big thing for me. I love it, but gosh, the energy it takes to get there is kind of what turns me off of it. So you just got to rip the Band-Aid off, though.
I love the Jerry Seinfeld quote in there that there's no such thing as fun for the whole family.
Truth. And then the last fun is relaxing fun, which is easy. You don't need a skill. You don't have to take action. There's very little coordination. This is like sitting around and watching TV. And I think this is why a lot of people turn to Netflix or their TV or scrolling on their social media every night because you don't have to think about it, right? It's like brain numbing stuff. You don't have to give anything to sit in front of your TV for 4 hours versus playing games with your family for 4 hours or reading books to your family for 4 hours, right? That's accommodating fun. Whereas relaxing fun, it's just, you get a numb out, if we're being honest. So I don't know what you thought of those different types of fun, but I'm interested to see your take on it.
I'm with you, like the challenging fun, like to me, when I read challenging fun, to me, like that translates to family vacations. Like those are hard to plan. It takes a lot of coordination, like finances and everything. But tell me after that trip's done that you don't look and go, I'm so glad that we did that. And you would just have those like big family memories. And in 2018, me and my husband got married in Vegas and we brought the kids too. And some of my favorite memories of that like 8-day trip was the family day that we got to go walk around and go visit the aquariums and stuff like that. And so I definitely agree, like something about the challenging fun just translates instantly to family trips for me. And then I think that it's important that she highlights that there is 3 kinds. And I think you really need all 3 kinds in some kind of, not necessarily balance, because obviously the challenging fun is a little more extraneous than just the relaxing fun. But I think that if you spend too much time in one category, it's not going to work. So like you said, if you are sitting there and you're brain numbing to Netflix every single night because you're relaxing and fun, but you're never like getting out, you're never doing any like family things where maybe you are going to the playground or you're going to the children's museum, or maybe you're planning that like vacation, maybe not with the kids even, but maybe it's just a you and your husband trip for a weekend trip. You're planning those big things. I think that's the balance that kind of really brings in that ultimate happiness. In, like I said, in retrospective balance. You can't just do one of these all the time. It's not going to work.
Absolutely. I love that. And something else that really spoke to me in this is, again, I recognize myself in her. She said she loved her work day. For her, that was fun. And I remember in the last chapter, we talked about, or no, it was this chapter. She talked about marking things off of her list is fun. And I think that's a lot for me when it comes to work. I love my habits. I love having a routine. I love knowing what I'm doing for the most part. And she kind of gives herself permission to have that routine and stick to her habits, and be okay with that being fun. Like you don't always have to just be a complete free bird, free spirit, like always looking for fun. If it brings you joy to go through your work day, right? Like again, kind of you are your own human. And I think we talked about that a little bit in the parenting chapter, where we become moms and we forget who we are. That workday helps you step outside of that other label that you hold on to. And so I found permission kind of in her saying, like, it's okay to have fun with your work, because that's totally me. I'm obsessed with what I do. And so being able to do that and like say that is my fun, that gives me like a sigh of relief.
Right. 100% agree. And then something about how she touches really quickly on kind of why she did this in the first place. She says, I didn't face an enormous obstacle to happiness. One of my main goals for my happiness project was to prepare myself for adversity, to develop the self-discipline and the habits to deal with bad things when they happen. And just that kind of reminder of that, that's why you do this, is because life is going to have adversity. There are going to be times in life that there is not necessarily fun. And she talks about how she had posted and had this comment on her blog, and some of the readers came back with, happiness in moments of trauma seems a lot more accessible than joy. And I was kind of stunned by that statement, because the truth of it, like finding joy in trauma, like that's a feat, like that, to especially in the moment, but to find maybe that little glimpse of something that brings you that little bit of happiness, and happiness doesn't always make you feel happy in that moment.
Absolutely.
So doing those things, having that self-discipline in that carry you through, I think was just a good reminder that this is why you do this.
Absolutely. And I loved one of the responses from her readers. They said, before, so she's kind of talking about her husband and her relationship with him. I'll just go ahead and read this whole little spiel. I was married a very long time, and in those years, life revolved around my husband. Long story short, he dumped me probably when things got too boring. I went in depression for years. Why? This is the highlighted part that I want to highlight. I had no life of my own. I didn't have the first clue as to who I was or what I wanted. And then she says some more stuff, and she said, you have to do while you're able, meaning you have to find your happiness now in this situation, because what happens when that traumatic thing does happen? And I bring this up because this is kind of where my whole health journey, growth journey, whatever you want to call it, my life kind of changed, because I decided to change because I thought that my husband didn't love me. I thought, like, oh my gosh, I have got to change me so that I can keep him around, which was a lie. It was a lie I was telling myself, but I didn't realize it at the time. And I realized as I kind of started this whole journey, everything was dependent on him, right? Like I was a stay-at-home mom. My whole life depended on him because he was the one providing. He was the one that I answered to. He was my only friend. He was the person I called. Like I didn't surround myself with others. And I realized, I literally told myself, I said, what if something happens to him tomorrow? Because guess what? I'm not God. I don't get to decide how long he lives. I don't get to decide when he leaves. What if something happens to him tomorrow? What am I going to do? And that was literally the question that I asked myself. What will you do if he dies tomorrow? And that may sound super morbid, but it's true. You don't know when your significant other is going to leave. You don't know when something traumatic is going to happen. And so I really connected with this lady here, because had I lost him 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to fight for my kids. I wouldn't have been able to stand on my own. I would have completely crumbled because he was my whole life. And so really having to discover who I was, I'm confident that if I lost him tomorrow, if he dumped me, if he moved on, if something traumatic, God forbid, happened, I could still stand. I could still fight because I've built myself up to this point. I did what I had to while I was able to, so that no matter what lies ahead, I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I figured out who I am. Not to say that it will be easy, not to say that I wouldn't be traumatized, not to say that it would be hard, but I see so many times women really say like, well, I can't because I can't go get a job because I can't do this because my husband says, my husband's boss, right? I get it. I understand it, especially as a stay-at-home mom. Like I can connect with a lot of women on that area. But sometimes I just want to shake them and I want to say, what if you don't have them, right? Like what if, can you stand on your own? What if something bad happens? Who are you without your child? Who are you without your spouse? Because at some point, either you're going to be without or they're going to be without. Are you going to be able to stand up afterwards? And I know that kind of like took a big, huge spin, but to me, it was such a like shake, because obviously it's something that I took away the first time that I read it, that it hit me so hard that it's changed my life in 5 years, because now I don't have to worry if I would be able to survive.
And I think, like I said, it's a hard, like a deep kind of dark situation, but that's what we want to bring, is that moment of realness. And there's a quote that has stuck by me through a lot of things. And I know that we talk about finding help and stuff like that and asking for it, but at the end of the day, like, you are what you have. And there's a quote that always gets me through, is like, you can have the best support system in the entire world, but who is going to pick you up at 3 a.m. from the bathroom floor when you're bawling your eyes out and you don't want to go on anymore?
Absolutely.
You are going to pick yourself off that floor. And in the section that you were talking about, the reader had wrote, I think you can bank happiness. That is to say, learn about yourself, what makes you happy while the sailing is smooth. When the waves swell up and get rough, you have the memories of times you were happy. You've been there and done that, so you know that it's possible to do it again. It's a matter of weathering the storm and navigating to your happiness destination. It probably won't be the same path, but it is achievable.
Absolutely. It's like that shaky moment that you've got to be really serious about bringing the joy right now, about uncovering it in this moment. Because if you don't get serious about having fun, when the going gets tough, you're not going to be able to smile through it.
Right. And it's about creating those memories to have you. They're almost, if you're an analogy person, when you're smoothing a sail, like your sail is going well, you create these happy moments, and they kind of act like little water rafts creating all around you. And then when suddenly there's a big storm and things are going under, you're going to hold on to those water rafts that you created of those good times. You're going to remember, this isn't forever. And that's one of my favorite scriptures, is this too shall pass, because it does. And knowing that you're strong enough to weather through that, knowing how to weather through that, knowing how to show up for yourself through the hard times, because showing up as a choice is easier than showing up when you have to. Mm-hmm. And if you already have the self-discipline of knowing how to show up and knowing what makes you happy and knowing how you are and knowing yourself, you can see yourself through those storms so much better than just drowning and washing up on shore and going, what the heck just happened?
Well, that's 2020 in a nutshell. Like, let's be real. That's 2020 in a nutshell. Some people are doing really good and some people are doing not so good. And it's a matter of the tools that they had to equip themselves with before we got into this year, right? Because we don't have control over anything. Like, we have control over our actions and our behavior. And like, that's it. That's it. Everything else is out of our control. So whatever life throws at us, we just have to kind of roll with the punches. We don't get to control that. And if you don't have the tools in your toolbox to be able to fight the struggle, so many times I have people who are like, I just don't know how you do it. I don't have another choice. But the thing was, when I did have a choice, I stood up and I did something for myself, and it got me stronger, so that when shit hit the fan, I already knew what to do. And I already knew how to fill my cup, and I already knew how to take care of me. And I think that that's super, super powerful. And maybe if you're a listener who's listening, you're like, well, I don't have those things. How can I show up when it's hard? For me, I realize, again, you get to control two things, your actions and your behavior, right? If it's hard now, show up and try, because you don't have another choice. Your choice is to sit and wallow or to stand up and do one thing, one little bitty thing different. And if that means smiling more each day, if that means saying yes to fun, if that means moving your body, if that means drinking your water, I don't know what that means to you. But if you could take that one step and do that and start applying it, then you're going to see those changes add up over time.
Agreed. And she quotes Samuel Jackson in the very last line of this book that says, the business of the wise man is to be happy. And then she writes, in whatever condition life happens to offer. Mm-hmm. And that's just it. Imagine, just like take a second, the listeners, to just imagine if everybody just made 2021 the year that they really focused on their own happiness project. Where do you think, as an entire nation, as an entire community, as an entire world, we would be if we made our conscious decision to be happier? Like, we know the little ripple effect that if we make these choices as moms, it affects into our husbands and our kids. Then our kids are nicer to their friends. Our husbands are nicer to their coworkers. Their coworkers go home, they're nicer to their wives. I just love that quote. And I just love the idea of, like, imagine if that really was everyone's goal, was just to be happy.
It would change the world. Absolutely change the world.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And that closes out chapter 5. We're almost halfway through the Happiness Project year.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. All right. Thanks for listening today. We will be back with chapter 6 next time.
See you guys later.